Okay. So we have some interesting developments with the coronavirus and how they're detecting it. Uh, this article from NBC says coronavirus may be detectable before symptoms start. And so we go in. Tests can detect the new coronavirus in people before they show symptoms, though it's still unclear whether a person can spread it to others at this point while they are asymptomatic. I can tell you definitely yes. People are spreading the virus while they're asymptomatic. That Diamond Princess cruise ship has over 500. They confirmed 88 new cases from the Diamond Princess cruise ship today. Um, yeah, and most of those cases, I mean, people weren't showing symptoms on that ship for a while, and that thing was spreading. Yeah, people spread this while they are asymptomatic, before they show symptoms. I guarantee it. That's why it's spreading so much. Once someone who's is considered to be possibly infected starts to show symptoms, the first thing that happens to that person is they get quarantined, right? They obviously spread it before they get quarantined. So this is crucial. Detecting the virus before someone shows symptoms is crucial in fighting it. If we can't do that, then we'll never be able to beat it, right? Because we'll have no idea who has it, and we have no idea who they're spreading it to. So we have to develop a method to detect the virus before people show symptoms so we can quarantine them before they get contagious. If we can do that, we can stop it. Otherwise, we'll just have to wait till a vaccine is developed, which could take years. I mean, they're already developing vaccines, but the approval process to mass distribute a vaccine takes years. And people might say, well, why don't they shortcut that process? Well, it's risky to distribute a vaccine that isn't properly tested. It can cause more harm than good, right? So, I mean, you may want to consider short circuiting that process, but that's very, very dangerous. So, a vaccine can take a year or two before you even get it. So, that's why the best way I feel to stop this is to be able to detect it before people start to show symptoms. It's crucial. So that's why I feel like this is important because apparently the CDC method, I think they mention it here. The CDC has previously said that the tests used in the U.S. may not be able to detect the coronavirus before a person started showing symptoms. Germany uses a different test than the U.S. So whatever test they're using, apparently that's better. Right? And honestly, we need to find a test that can detect coronavirus before someone starts to show symptoms and start distributing it. We need to be able to develop field labs or field kits that can detect this virus and start distributing to all countries that are at risk right now. So people who are suspected of being infected can be tested and quarantined before they spread it. Otherwise, we can't stop it, right? If you can't quarantine people before they spread it, you can't stop it. So it's just basic common sense. And this is very, very contagious. 542 people on that cruise ship got that virus. So, and 74,000 people in China. But there are mathematical models that show that the Chinese numbers are actually wrong. And there's a Wall Street Journal article that was posted on YouTube explaining, how people at universities are running crunching numbers and building mathematical models, and they were able to determine that the numbers being reported by China are likely incorrect. And I'll put the link to that article in the description below. So, yeah, anything China reports, take with a grain of salt. And that's what I've always been saying ever since the beginning of this. So let's look at the other countries outside of China, which is where we really need to look to see if this is becoming a pandemic and see how things are looking. And something very interesting happened here. We have 18 new cases in Republic of Korea. Just a massive explosion of cases there. Person-to-person infections. 18. And that goes, so Singapore has 3. Singapore has consistently shown new cases ever since, they started showing cases. They've just consistently shown new cases. And we have 3 in Japan as well. But this is huge, 18. I think that's the largest burst of new cases we've had ever since this started spreading outside of China. So we can look at our model here, my charts. We have, Korea was actually getting near flatline, right? They had a few cases here, and then they kind of level off, and then boom. Same thing happened in Japan, right? You had a spike of cases, and then it leveled off, and then all of a sudden you have an explosion of cases. This explosion, it hit 0 yesterday, but we had 3 more today. So this isn't quite over yet. And as each new burst happens, it's going to be a more spread out with each new burst, because not everybody's going to get infected at the same time. So the point in which they start showing symptoms isn't going to be exactly the same either. So it'll be a larger amount of people with each new burst, but it'll be a little more spread out each time. At least that's how I'm predicting this will happen, based on my understanding of how viruses spread. And I'm fairly certain this is spreading when people are not showing symptoms. Just empirical evidence and cases have shown that that's what's happening. So Singapore did have 0 cases. Let me see. Did I report that correctly? 18th? Oh, I don't think that's correct. Singapore. 1. They had 1. Oh, I mislabeled it. I gave that to Australia. Let me correct that. Australia did not have that. That was Singapore. And then Malaysia. No, Singapore, Japan, and Korea. How did I get one on Malaysia on the 18th? Japan, Korea. Okay. Singapore had 1. Japan had 6. This was yesterday? Hey, Japan. Whoa. Oh, whoa, hello. Oh, I'm looking at 29 twice. So this was on the 18th. Singapore had 1, Japan had 6, and Korea had 1. Singapore had 1. Japan had 6. How come this is... And Korea had 1. My numbers might be a little... Korea had 1. Oh, I probably need to go 1. Singapore had 1. Oh no, Korea had 3. Malaysia had... Oh, what am I? 29. What? I feel like I'm in a dream and numbers keep changing on me. Okay. Oh, I keep looking at 2 different columns. Okay. Possible or confirmed transmissions outside of China on the... Make sure I'm looking at the correct thing. 18th, right? Possible or confirmed transmissions outside of China. Singapore 1, Japan 6, Korea 1. Yeah. So Singapore 1, Japan 6, Korea 1. Let me look at the 17th. Make sure I got those numbers correctly put in now. Yep, 17th, we have Singapore 3, right? Japan 6, and Korea 1. Okay, and then on the 18th, Japan had 6 again. That's not good. Singapore had 1. So Singapore did not quite zero out. And Korea had 1. There we go. Okay. There we go. I think we're all correct now. And then today we had 18 in Korea. So again, we look here. This was probably the initial point of infection. It could have been a super carrier, like one person who just affects a bunch of persons among this small group that got it here. And then now we're finally starting to see symptoms from the people who got it way back at this point. And again, this is when these people started showing symptoms. These people probably infected these people probably a week prior. So this group of people infected, this group of people a week earlier, before the 3rd. So back in January, these people got infected, and now they're just starting to show symptoms, and they're starting to be detected as having the coronavirus. So Germany's looking pretty good. They flatlined, but we gotta keep an eye on these numbers. Make sure that stays flat for about 3 weeks. Again, that's what I said. That's what I predicted. You have a lull, right? It drops off, and then you have a new wave, right? We kind of had a wave here, right, in Singapore. This is a bit spread out. This wave is a bit spread out, but this is kind of a wave, right? But it's kind of all over the place with Singapore. But I believe this was kind of a wave here. It's spread out for over several days, but it still is a lot of new cases, and it's just not going flat. And also, I think this is maybe two separate clusters that are kind of mixing together, and that's why the wave seems a bit more jagged. Japan might be more closer to just one cluster that keeps growing at this point. So yeah, you had this initial infection, dropped off, and then all of a sudden these people infected these people a week ago, and now we're starting to see them. And because, again, I just read the report, most tests you can't even test them until they start showing symptoms. Germany just started. What was this? Let me see if I can read that part. Get back to that article. For symptoms. So I don't know how long Germany has been using this method, but from what I understand, most people who are testing for coronavirus are using a method that will only test them after they're starting to show symptoms. So that's why we're not detecting people with coronavirus until after they show symptoms, until after they've already had it for 2 or 3 weeks, right? And that's the problem. So yeah, and again, you can't get complacent. Things are looking really good, right? Korea looked just near flatline. Germany's flatline. Japan started to taper off. Singapore was down to 1, almost 0, but now they're back up to 3. Japan isn't quite down to 0. They still had 6 new cases. That was Japan had 3, but they're starting to end up like Singapore, where they're just consistently showing new cases every day. And then Korea just had a massive explosion of cases, 18, which is ridiculous. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on this, right? And I'll continue to do reports. I didn't do one yesterday. Not much was going on yesterday. Things are actually looking pretty good, but again, I would advise against becoming too overconfident, or complacent. Just be prepared. And tomorrow, I'm probably going to do a video about why people who wear the face mask, why people like that can still get a virus, right? And how you can end up infecting yourself, mostly by touching your eyes. Face mask doesn't cover your eyes, and if you rub your eyes and you touch the surface that had a virus on it, you're just going to put that in your eye. So tomorrow I'm going to do a video that breaks down, how effective those masks are, and how really they protect other people from getting the virus more than it protects you from getting the virus. So thanks for watching, and catch you guys tomorrow.